Welcome to the Balboa Park Committee, members of the public and city staff to the Balboa Park Committee meeting. I am Balboa Park District Manager Johnny Cho. I would like to share the meeting procedures with you before we begin the meeting. Until further notice, meeting of the Balboa Park Committee will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of California Executive Order 2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Ralph M. Brown Act. In the interest of public health and safety, board members will participate in meetings by teleconference. As such, and in accordance with Executive Order, no members of the public will attend the meetings, but instead view and join the meeting proceeding via the link listed on the agenda website. In lieu of in-person attendance, members of the public may submit their comments via a public comment web form or join the live meeting webinar. The instructions for joining the meetings were provided in advance on the website and the agenda. Members of the public wishing to address the board in writing must submit a web form prior to the meeting. For those wishing to speak during the live meeting webinar, when the item on which you wish to speak is called, press *9 on your phone keypad or press raise hand icon on the computer. When prompted, please state your name for the record and provide your public comment. You will have time allotted by the chair to provide your comment. Once your time has ended, your microphone will be muted. Pursuant to open meeting laws, no discussion or action other than a referral shall be taken by the board or anything brought forth under non-agenda public comment. I will now turn it over to Balboa Park Committee Chair Molly Chase.
Thanks, Johnny. We're going to take a quick roll call to confirm attendance in alphabetical order. When I call your name, please unmute yourself and say present. Howard Blackson.
Present.
Dane Nguyen.
Present.
Molly Chase. Oh, sorry. Present. Allison Suarez.
Present.
Claire Marsh.
Present.
Victoria Cran. Here. William Aaron. Micah Parzan.
Here.
Makeda Cheatham.
Present.
Catherine Johnston.
Present.
Chris Eddy.
I'm here. Did you say alphabetical order?
That's what it was in, but then it got updated. So it's clearly not in alphabetical order.
I'm just showing I was paying attention.
You missed me too, Molly. Sarah Daw is here.
Oh, I said Sarah Daw.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I will begin with approval of the minutes from October 7th, 2021. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay. Chris made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Allison. A motion and a second.
Okay, I will read the roll. Molly Chase.
Yes.
Catherine Johnston.
Yes.
Harold Blackson. Dane
Yes.
Nguyen. Dane Nguyen.
Abstain.
Allison Suarez.
Yes.
Claire Marsh.
Yes.
Victoria Karen. William Aaron. Micah Parzan.
Yes.
Makeda Cheatham.
Yes.
Sarah Daw.
Abstain.
Was Victoria on the call or did I?
She was not.
Okay.
Next, we'll take, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
I did not receive any web form. And there's someone raising their hand. Give me 1 second. Okay, Danielle Lehman, I'm gonna put Danielle on.
Okay. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Good evening. This is Danielle Lehman from HPR International Cottages. Hello, Molly. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. I want to first start out by thanking city staff. So thank you, city staff, for expeditiously fixing all of our recent broken windows at the HPR cottages. And I am looking forward to working with city staff on adding new lights to the oldest cottages to help with security. At today's Balboa Park Safety and Security meeting, San Diego Police Department stressed the need for security cameras, and several types were suggested. Besides the usual Balboa Park team of officers, there were some officers from the citywide multicultural division there also attending, as well as 2 Balboa Park Rangers. An active shooter training for all of Balboa Park institutions will be coming soon. Thank you very much.
Okay, next is Paul. Paul Kruger, are you still on?
I just got to unmute. I've been here.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm Paul Kruger. I'm just a resident in Talmadge and like a million San Diegans, occasional visitor to the park. And I wanted to tell you how disappointed I was to see the overload of vendors in the park last time I went on the Prado was the area that I was in, and the area right outside the Prado, and it was just totally overrun with tents and tables. And it looked like a swap meet to me. And I've lived here for 40 years and I never saw anything like it. So I tried to do a little research, and I got a hold of a draft of the December 14th council agenda item, which I glanced at, and it looks like it does have some suggested protocol for limiting the number of vendors in the park. And I would just urge, I don't know what, as a committee, a planning group, whatever you are, you can do. I would urge you to do anything in your power to endorse sensible restrictions on vendors that will return the park to an area that we all know and love and can appreciate and walk and see vistas, instead of something that looks like a sports arena swap meet. And that also as individuals, if there are limitations to what you can do as a group, that each of you who are here tonight, clearly because of your concern and love of the park, will do everything you can to make that happen. And that's it, and thank you for listening.
Okay, I do not have any other hand raised or web form, so that concludes public comment.
Thanks, Johnny. And we'll move on to the chair's report. I wanted to start by thanking our nonprofit partners for the explainer sessions and the new members that participated, as well as Christina and city staff for helping coordinate those. We're going to continue to look for additional ways to engage with our partners in addition to the member updates that they're providing at these committee meetings, so that we can find out more regularly what they're doing outside of the park through different opportunities. So we'll keep you updated there. And that lends itself to something else that is kind of on the agenda you've received an invite for, which is an upcoming briefing explainer session on the Balboa Park Master Plan that Vicki Estrada has offered to host. And for those who haven't had a full brief with Vicki, even if you're a longtime board member, park lover, have heard it before, highly recommend that you attend. I will be there. I know we have a couple of folks who've RSVP'd, but if you haven't yet, please email staff and let them know if you're available, and we will make sure to send that invitation out. There's always something to learn, and it will be helpful in guiding our future discussions. And so as always, if there's anything any members want to hear about or want updates on that we can provide and help facilitate, let me know. I guess the 3 upcoming items I wanted to touch on really briefly. As we've talked about previously, design review, I have heard many of you loud and clear. So I've talked to staff and confirmed they're evaluating the proposal internally and are looking to bring that item forward for future consideration. Additionally, around mobility, we heard at previous committee members, especially after the tragedy on Pershing and the safety improvements that were installed after that, about the desire to talk about safe transportation, safe mobility options in the park. I thought it would be helpful to start that conversation by actually hearing from the city's mobility director, Alyssa Muto, and Park and Rec staff. So they will be presenting mobility concepts for the park that will be consistent with the feedback you've already received in January. If there's anything additionally that you want to hear from them, let me know, but that will be an opportunity to hear and kind of set off hopefully ongoing committee discussions about how we want to tackle mobility in the park moving forward. And then additionally, you will have seen that there was a workshop item from the city's independent budget analyst. We're going to have to move that to a future meeting because the IBA, this meeting didn't end up working for them, but I do want to make sure that this committee has a handle on the city budget process and begins to really tackle not only hearing on the funded and unfunded list of the park, but how we as a committee can start to participate more strongly and advocate for projects and pieces in the upcoming budget cycle. And so that's something that's a priority of mine, and I look forward to working with all of you on. And then lastly, I just wanted to end my remarks by recognizing the passing of Jim Daw, Sarah's dad, but also a just dedicated park servant in San Diego. For those who knew Jim, many knew his love of our library system, but you also probably saw him in the park often, whether it was at an Art of Elan show or at the Mingay. He was a board member of the Balboa Park Conservancy. So I want to take a moment and honor and remember him for his dedication to our city. So thank you. With that, we're going to move to city staff reports. Cody, Christina, Johnny.
I can go ahead and get started, and then Cody, if you'd like to follow behind. Oh, yep, I'll go ahead and do mine, and then Johnny will promote her as a panelist. So good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see you all again. Just a few updates this evening. Council President Campbell recently announced her intent to bring forward a legislative change to address SB 946, or the street vending ordinance. So for the individual that was speaking on behalf of that item earlier, and for all of you that are interested in this topic and the impact that it's had on Balboa Park, we will make sure to provide information to you as we receive it and as it's made public. And the timeline for that is December, hopefully. So we'll make sure to pass that information along. The Comic-Con exterior restoration is complete. So thank you so much to the Committee of 100 for helping us do a new paint job on Comic-Con in anticipation of the museum opening in just a few short weeks. The Botanical building restoration phase 1, as many of you know, we are working to get that project off the ground, and I'm happy to report that our department, together with engineering and capital projects, is now working internally to prepare for phase 1 construction with EC contractors. The details on park impacts and the construction will start coming to you publicly on an ongoing basis, beginning now and continuing, of course, through the completion of the project in spring 2023. We intend to have a presentation to this committee in the coming months to share more details on what those park-wide impacts will look like, probably around February. But in the meantime, the first milestones to make you aware of is that the building will close January 1st of this coming year, and the city will then begin its work to relocate many of the plants that are within the building to our nursery, and the site will be mobilized for construction by the middle of January. So you'll start to really see some exciting movement on that, and we look forward to sharing details as we move along. And then also specific to the Botanical building, the fall decorative installation is now on display, and Forever Balboa Park will be planning its holiday display of poinsettias with an installation expected for mid-December through January 1st when the building will close and our exciting project will begin. So that's my update tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Christina. And I see that Cody got moved over. So Cody, welcome.
Hi, thanks so much. I apologize if something happens. My internet's being really wishy-washy today, but yeah, just quick update. And actually that was helpful from Christina because one of the things I was going to mention, a lot of folks have reached out to our office about the street vending draft ordinance. And as Christina said, that's going to be coming forward in December. And we have taken a lot of input from constituents and visitors to the park. So rest assured that that is top of mind for the council member in our office. But always feel free to continue reaching out to us about that or any other topic. The council member also was pleased to participate in the Balboa Park Cultural Partnership Board meeting last month. I guess it's now last month, where we discussed some of these topics, including arts and cultural funding, where the council member reaffirmed his commitment to the Penny for the Arts and other arts and cultural funding. So always feel free to reach out to me. Anything Balboa Park related, I'm going to put my information in the chat here as usual. And one of the things I was also going to mention, I know the IBA presentation was moved, but we are starting to get some outreach from folks regarding the council members' budget priorities, which are due in January. So, you know, if you're ready to do that, we're taking it now as well, or you can, you know, wait until that presentation next time. But we are gathering information always. So I think that's it for me, and thank you.
Thanks so much, Cody. Next, Johnny, if you have an update.
Yeah, I have a few things. Recreation staff from Muni Gym and Balboa Park Activity Center did a Halloween drive-through event at Morley Field on October 22nd. We had about 100 participants drive through. We gave out candy to all the people who drove through. Taste of December nights will be December 3rd through the 5th, and we will be utilizing all 3 lots in Inspiration Point. The event starts at 11 a.m. and goes till 10 p.m. And we just received the notice of right to appeal for the exploratory evaluation of Muni Gym. And I will send that out to the committee members to look at if anyone has any questions. That's all I have.
Thanks, Johnny. And Victor, do you have an update this evening?
This is my 4th week here. I'm just continuing to learn the logistics of maintenance and operations. So currently I don't have any update right now, but I'm sure I'll have something next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Victor. And then due to impacted schedules tonight, we're actually going to be taking our presentations first and moving our partner updates until the end of the agenda so we can accommodate the city staff members that are here. So apologize for that last minute change. Moving forward, I will also be reaching out to see if get some input, not only from our partner organizations, but from the committee members, just on how you think the agenda could likely be maybe reorganized so that we can make sure we're diving into some of our action items. I heard some comments at previous meetings. And so I look forward to having those conversations with all of you. We do not have any items on the consent agenda this evening. So our action item is item 101, the Kate Sessions Grove renaming, and Nancy Carol Carter, I believe, has already been moved over and is here to present the item. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, thank you so much. Are we ready?
We're ready.
I will share my screen. Well, good evening, everyone. If you have never heard of the San Jose Hesper Palm Grove in Balboa Park and its connection to Kate Sessions, you are not alone. People know this collection of palms has historic significance and that it fits to a larger story of Kate Sessions and the 3 specialty gardens she brought to Balboa Park. Sessions spent 55 years of her life working as a horticulturalist in San Diego from 1985 until her death in 1940. The only time she had any official control of Balboa Park land was during the 10 years of a lease that allowed her to operate a nursery in the park, paying her rent by planting a minimum of 100 trees annually on park land. When that lease expired in 1903, Sessions moved her nursery business to Mission Hills, later to Beach. Subsequent to the lease arrangement, Kate Sessions never again had control over Balboa Park land. But hers was a highly respected voice. Her ideas carried a lot of weight. So she did influence park development. And that explains her connection with 3 specialty gardens within the park: an aloe and agave garden, the cactus garden, which now carries her name, and the San Jose Hesper Palm Grove. When San Diego wanted to specially honor her in 1931 at a big community dinner, Kate Sessions had a different idea. She asked that aloe and agave garden be added to Balboa Park. She loved the color variety and dry climate hardiness of aloe and agave plants. And in 1932, the San Diego Floral Association took responsibility for establishing this new garden and created one of the most botanically important and best documented specialty gardens ever to exist in Balboa Park. The garden was presented by the Floral Association to the city of San Diego, and in March 1935, the garden was dedicated and officially named the Kate O. Sessions Aloe and Agave Garden. This 1936 aerial photograph shows the garden's large triangular shape. The twin roads on each side of the garden join together and curve down into Florida Canyon. To orient you on this picture, here is the current route of Village Place. This building, the old Canadian Legion and later theater, no longer exist. The Morton Bay Fig Tree is up in this direction, and the zoo parking lot is off to the right over here. And parking was a problem back then too. All of these are cars parked along the roads. In 1971, the Kate Sessions Aloe and Agave Garden was deemed to be old and disposable, not importantly historic. It was completely destroyed and replaced by the Spanish Village parking lot. So one of the 3 Balboa Park specialty gardens attributed to Sessions was forever lost. A few months ago, this committee heard a presentation on the Balboa Park Cactus Garden, created in 1935 at the urging of Kate Sessions. Thanks to your support, it is now officially named the Kate O. Sessions Cactus Garden. And it is hoped that this new name and new signage will attract more visitors and encourage the preservation and improvement of the garden over the coming years. The 3rd and oldest of the Kate Sessions specialty gardens needs our help to achieve an equally bright future. The San Jose Hesper Palm Grove, dating to 1914, has never been recognized as a garden of Balboa Park. Its story and connection to Kate Sessions have been all but forgotten for a century. The colorful history of this garden begins in 1902 when Kate Sessions joined a plant hunting expedition to the tip of Baja California. The explorers boarded a coastal steamship in Ensenada for a 4-day trip to San Jose del Cabo. Then they rode mules for 3 days to reach a mountainous area where a special palm was growing. This palm was believed to be new to meaning that it was not botanically classified or named. The palm had never been imported into the United States. The leader of the expedition was T.S. Brandegie, who in the right-hand photo is a tree in Baja. On the left is his wife, the remarkable Dr. Catherine Brandegie, the third one to graduate from medical school in California. The Brandegies were two of the most respected botanists of their time. They were definitely the nation's most renowned botanical couple. The Brandegies were known for their adventurous field work and their exacting scientific publications. When they moved to San Diego in 1894, they, of course, became friends with Kate Sessions. Here is the Brandegie House and Herbarium on First Avenue in Bakersfield. Through Kate Sessions, Mr. Brandegie was involved in the early development of Balboa Park, lending both his botanical expertise and as new roads were first built in the park, experience as a civil engineer. Around the Brandegie home, San Diego's first botanical garden was created. And here is Catherine Brandegie at work with her test plants. Without question, Kate Sessions was colliding with top botanists when she went to Baja in search of a special palm in 1902. This is what Kate Sessions wrote about the trip. I dug from the field 5 small palms and brought them to San Diego. Later, a few dozen seeds were planted. In 1914, 325 were planted in Balboa Park, just outside the Rose Garden. This group was planted in honor of Mr. and Mrs. Brandegie. Well, it might be confusing to hear that the palms were planted near the Rose Garden, but Sessions is referring to the first Rose Garden in the park, not the one we know today. The first Rose Garden, as shown on this old postcard, was planted for the 1915 exposition on the west side of the park. The Cabrillo Bridge helps us envision the location. The garden was approximately in the same place as today's Bowling Green. In this photo, the palm plantation is clearly visible beyond the bowling greens. There's an assortment of palm species on view here, but Kate Sessions' San Jose Hesper palms extend down the side of Cabrillo Canyon and dominate this 1914 plantation. Here's an aerial view taken from the Balboa Park tree inventory completed about 3 years ago. There on the bottom left are the 2 square bowling greens, and each colored dot on this image represents a tree. The dark purple dots are San Jose Hesper palms. 188 were counted in this area. Some recent photographs of San Jose Hesper palms in Balboa Park. Our Balboa Grove is believed to be the largest collection of this species in the United States, and the palm is somewhat rare. The Hesper palm's slender and generally straight trunk is one of its distinguishing features. In Mexico, it is cut as building material, so natural stands of the palm are threatened by over-harvesting. It is possible to stand amid these tall San Jose Hesper palms and look over to the Kate Sessions statue at the park entrance. Yet, the direct connection between Sessions and this one-of-a-kind palm plantation is all but unknown. This can be remedied by recognizing the Sessions Brandegie San Jose Hesper Palm Grove as an official garden of Balboa Park, adding it to park maps and creating locational and interpretive signage. Several benefits will result. This will recapture a lost Balboa Park story. It will link a current anonymous planting with Kate Sessions, celebrate her only plant hunting expedition, and acclaim her skills as a plant propagator. This will honor the Brandagees who created San Diego's first botanical garden and assisted in the early development of Balboa Park. The designation will alert Balboa Park gardeners to the historical importance of this grove and help guide their decisions on future maintenance. And finally, this will contribute to the preservation of a rare and somewhat endangered plant species. Let's bring this Balboa Park specialty garden out of obscurity, honor the Brandagees as originally intended, and tell park visitors the inside story of Kate Sessions' special connection with this mass planting of palms. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Do we have any questions from the committee?
Marley? I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to thank you for your work and thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting and informative, so thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate having the time to tell you about this.
Brer? Sorry, I just saw your hand. We cannot hear you, Brer. I see you, your lips moving, but.
Sorry, I have two mutes on my computer and I missed one of them. I just wanted to say thanks, Nancy. I've been down in this canyon many times on my bicycle, and I've always loved the experience of it and the collection of palms. I had no idea what they were. So you taught me something tonight, and I think this is an experience that I think should be shared with everyone. So I love the idea. Thank you for bringing this and presenting it.
You're very welcome.
I would make a motion to accept.
Perfect. Motion by Howard, and Chris, I did see your hand go up as Howard was making the motion. So if you have any comments to add before we look for a second.
Yeah, are you referring to me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's great. I mean, obviously, Kate Sessions is the patron saint of all things botanical in San Diego, and it's great to play that up. We probably ought to include some information about her cohorts and all of this. The what's the name? The
Brandagees.
Brandagees. So this is the branded GI palm, but commonly known as the San Jose. I think it's great. I just wondered what sort of information or plaque or how intricate do you think it's going to be in terms of introducing it, and in what form would that information be imparted? Is it a plaque? Is it a series of plaques or exhibits along the way that commemorate those pictures and things that she may have done in Baja? Just how extensive do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be an outdoor museum dedicated to Kate Sessions, or is it just really going to be all about these particular palms?
Are you directing that question to me?
Or anybody, but you would probably be the expert, yes.
Well, I don't know exactly what form commemorative and interpretive signs are going to take under the new Forever Balboa Park sign policy, but I would envision something like just having the grove sign listed as to what it is, identifying it as a Balboa Park garden. And the interpretive matter could be, of course, of any length. I just drafted one that was 150 words, so that's not very much. But I think the most important things one would want to include in this is that this is the product of Kate Sessions' only plant hunting expedition that she ever went on. and that she propagated all the original 325 that were planted there from seed. And then just something that's descriptive about the brandages and the classification of the palm, as you said, as a brandagii palm.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it'd be great if it was sort of an outdoor museum. I was curious as to how we know that she hadn't gathered seeds or plant species at other times. How do we know that?
Well, because her life is amazingly well documented. And I think she herself said that this was the only plant hunting expedition she ever went on. Her other travels out of the country did not result in the import of original plants that had not been introduced here before.
Are these palms elsewhere in the park as well, or is this the only grove we have?
The other largest gathering of them is about, I believe it's 11 that are over close to the recreation center on Park Boulevard. And there may be a few scattered about, but mainly it's the 188 that remain near the bowling.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Howard. Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Dang.
Thanks, Dang. Bonnie, if you want to call the roll for a vote.
Molly, can I chime in but as a point of discussion? Nancy, thank you so much for all the research you've done. It's always such a pleasure to hear you talk about the park, and this is no exception. I love how Dr. Brandagy was a physician who graduated from the University of California, and I think it was, you said 1878 or something.
I didn't mention the date, but she is the third woman, so it was pretty early.
Yeah, quite remarkable, and something that I think would be an important kind of component of honoring her. The one thing I might ask is, you know, we live in such a tenuous time in terms of recognizing folks who had significant accomplishments on the one hand, but sort of have a underbelly from a historical perspective that many people don't realize until they've already been honored. And, you know, living in a very particular type of time and not knowing anything about Dr. Brandagy other than what you've said tonight, I would rely on you as a historian to sort of help us be confident that she doesn't have any so-called skeletons in her closet, that, right. You know, here we are proposing to honor this woman who seems quite remarkable, but, you know, from a different vantage point, she could bring a lot of baggage if not well researched and sort of documented and all that. And so again, not knowing anything about her, I just asked the question of, are you aware of anything along those lines?
Not, and actually I wrote a major article about brandages a few years ago. So I did a great deal of research on them, and I certainly didn't turn up anything in that research, although, you know, you never know. But I think they were very admirable people. They were honored at the University of California. But as I say, I've done a lot of research on them, and I'm certainly not aware of anything that would argue against including them in a historical sign in Balboa Park.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I just think we would all be remiss if we were to, you know, name something after somebody who we later found out was a slaveholder, or, you know, had done atrocities to indigenous peoples or something along those lines. So I'm supportive of it with sort of that caveat of just wanting to put that to bed with some confidence.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to do roll. Molly Chase.
Yes.
Catherine Johnston.
Yes.
Harold Blackson.
Is Howard, and thank you, Nancy. Yes.
Dang Nguyen,
Yes.
Allison Suarez,
Yes.
Brer Marsh, Victoria Karen, William Aaron, Micah Parson,
Yes.
Makeda Cheatham,
Yes.
Sarah Daw,
Yes.
Chris Eddy.
Yes.
Perfect, that passes. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, everyone.
And as I mentioned in my chair's report, the workshop item has been moved to a future meeting. We don't have any other items, so we'll move on to our information item. Item 501, and Shelley from Park and Rec is here to talk about our fee schedule update.
Good evening, members of the Mission Bay. I'm sorry, I was at the Mission Bay the other night. The Balboa Park Committee. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm here with Sarah Razzo. She's our Recreation Program Manager, and I'm the Deputy Director for Community Parks 1 Division. And also joining us if we need help with questions is our esteemed Director, Andy Field. I'm just gonna turn off my camera so I can get my screen. So let me know when you see it.
We see it.
Okay. You can see the full presentation mode now. Okay, got it. Okay, so we're bringing forward the proposed FY 2023 fee schedule, which is would be implemented July 1st of 2022. We presented this to the Park and Rec Board on October 21st. And we've also, as I just mentioned, presented it to the Mission Bay Committee and to the area committees, both the joint 1 and 2 area committees of representing all of our community recreation advisory groups. To give you some background, in 2019, the department retained a consultant to update our prior 2015 cost of service study. After this revision of the cost of service study, most fees still remain significantly below the cost to provide the service. We did have a department fee committee who worked over a year to complete a comprehensive review of our fees, policies, and procedures. And our fees have not changed since 2015. And this is just a brief summary of the cost of service study. The entire, there's a much larger detailed list attached to the report. But as you can see, youth sports organizations pay somewhere between 7 and 36% of the cost to provide that service and that support for those sports leagues. Youth leagues, the fees they paid only cover about 22% of the cost to support those youth leagues. When we get to swimming pools, for children and seniors, we're only recovering 3 to 4% of that cost, and it increases up slightly for adult users, and then also for swimming lessons and youth polo, we capture more of the cost to provide the services. Whoops, I'm sorry. And in ground use fees, for nonprofit youth, we only collect about 4% of that cost, but going up to the highest amount, 118%, that's primarily commercial users using our facilities, and we're collecting about 118% of the cost to provide the service. Mount Hope Cemetery, when we did this update, was 76 to 109%. In this presentation of the updated fee schedule, we're making all of those fees just 100% of cost recovery. So they were adjusted, basically. If any of you are familiar with California's Prop position 26, there are requirements for government issuing or creating fees for services, and they must not exceed the cost of service. However, the vast majority of our fees fall under two exceptions to Prop 26. And basically, when you charge a fee and to convey a benefit or privilege to a specific user or group, but not to the general public, that fee is exempt from Prop 26. Also, fees that allow entrance or use to this of city property is requested by the user for just a specific purpose, unrelated to general public use. That is also exempt from Prop 26. And the vast majority of our fees fall under these two categories. Recreation fees are exempt provided that the fees are paid voluntarily and do not exceed the cost to provide the service. And facility use and rentals are subject to fair market value. We basically have 5 categories of fees that are included in our fee schedule. The first is the use of fields and indoor and outdoor courts by youth leagues and other organized sports programs. The second is the use of outdoor park facilities, recreation buildings, and rooms and pools for organized activities. And then the third is our pool entrance fees. And then there's some miscellaneous fees, such as like artist exhibits in Balboa Park or beach mooring for private boats. Excuse me. And the fifth is recreation program services and classes. Okay, so as I said, we had a fee committee that looked at all of our fees. Tony, I think, was on the fee committee too. That work went for a long time. And then we got stopped right when we were completing our work. The whole city and the country was shut down for COVID. So it put us back several months from the work that we were progressing towards. So the restructure for the fee schedule, the current fee schedule that we've been using hasn't changed for more than 30 years. There was a lot of duplication of information, policies, and procedures, and resulted in confusion for staff and for the customers that look at our fee schedule. So our proposed fee schedule simplifies the calculation, and the applicable fees are easier to identify. We also consolidated all of our policies and requirements in the terms and conditions section to eliminate duplication of information. There are a few additional fees that had previously been authorized but not actually spelled out in the fee schedule, such as credit card processing fee, recreation center fund fees for recreation programs, and First Amendment sellers. So here, the summary of the proposed changes, where you propose to increase the fees by 10.8% to reflect the cost, the consumer price index changes between 2015 and 2019. This 10.8% on most of our fees is going to generate additional $225,000 in revenue for the general fund. We did restructure all of our sports fees. Those were the most complex fees and the hardest to apply consistently and to understand. So we did a whole new restructure. But because of this complete change in our fee structure for sports groups, we did not increase those fees this year for the 10.8%. There are new fees for Balboa Park traffic control and transportation services. And the last change was eliminate the volleyball league reservations for beaches and bays. They were paying a different fee from all other league organized sports in the city. So we made it consistent. They would pay the same fee if they're at beaches or in University City or in South Bay. They would pay the same fees that all users throughout the system would pay for their league operations. Oh, there's more. There is a new special recreation fund that would be created by the new Opportunity Fund fee. And I'll tell you more about that now, but it's a proposed new fee for all users. And it would create approximately $1 million special fund. And this fund would go towards equitable programs for communities of concern. And it would be in accordance with recommendations from our recently approved Parks Master Plan. This new Opportunity Fund fee would not apply when there is an RCF fee paid. And basically in our community parks throughout the system, user groups are paying this $10 or $15 per hour into the Recreation Center Fund, but they're not paying that same fee level for Balboa Park, for Mission Bay, and other regional parks. So we wanted to create consistency in the rates of fees paid throughout the system for all users. And that's why it's not applied when they pay the Recreation Center Fund fee, because they're already paying a higher rate in the community park areas. We also, our Opportunity Fund fee is replacing the fees that we were charging for dog classes, practice and shows, and outdoor fitness classes. So here's the structure. It's pretty simple. For smaller events, less than 50 people, if they're nonprofit use or non-commercial, they're only $1 an hour for the event. For commercial, government, and nonprofit small events, it's $5 per hour. For outdoor events greater than 50 people, the nonprofit, youth, and non-commercial will be $10 per hour. And large events that are commercial, government, or nonprofit adult would pay $15 per hour to the Opportunity Fund. And then it also applies to a room and gym rentals. Similarly, $1 for nonprofit, non-commercial, and then $10 for commercial, government, and nonprofit adult. And then sports leagues will also pay this fee, only $1 an hour for youth sports leagues and $2 per hour for adult sports leagues. So this is a summary of the recommendations. We will change the park and recreation fees effective July 1st, 2022, restructure our fee schedule, add or eliminate other fees as detailed within this report, add the Opportunity Fund fee to support recreation programs in communities of concern in accordance with the Parks Master Plan, create a special fund to receive the opportunity revenue and distribute the opportunity fee revenue to eligible community recreation center funds. And that completes my presentation. Okay. I'm going to keep my screen up in case you have questions about anything that was on that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Thank you, Shelley. Do we have any? Oh, I see Catherine Johnston has her hand up.
Yeah, I just have a quick question about and I apologize, I haven't reviewed it at, in total detail, but I wanted to ask, like going through the actual fee schedule, but I wanted to, in your slide, you talked about the fee for traffic control and stuff in Balboa Park. I know from previous experience that it wasn't possible to rent out a parking lot for an event. Is that at all changed in this? Could you describe a little bit more of the fee as it relates to traffic control for, you had it on one of your slides?
That is related to, if you don't mind, give me 1 second, I'm gonna pull up that fee from the fee schedule. It's related to like shuttles, those golf carts and things that they use. Give me 1 second, I'll grab it. There's like 2 or 3. Okay, oh, that's buildings, okay. Here it is. So for traffic control, that's for us to provide staff for traffic control for events. It's $30 per hour. The fee to operate a golf cart in Balboa Park to support a special event is $60, would be $60 an hour. And then we get a lot of requests to operate the tram outside normal hours of operation. So if they're having a large event, they can request that we operate the tram additional hours at $90 per hour. Or there's a fee to operate a special service shuttle within Balboa Park, which is a $125. We have not suggested that anyone can rent out an entire parking lot. That's not part of our fee schedule.
Okay, well, that's good to know that you're giving people the, some additional opportunities for shuttles. The $60 per hour to operate a golf cart seems a little high to me, but I'm not gonna, you know, I'll defer to my colleagues here, but that's helpful. I wish I could recall the issue a little bit more clearly, but my recollection was that there was some discussion previously that there would be a benefit to having folks to have the opportunity to rent out parking lots for large special events so that they could have a shuttle or something. So I think that you may have been adjusting it with the ability to rent out the shuttle for longer hours. So I think that's good. So thank you. And that concludes my comments.
Thanks, Catherine. I saw Makeda had her hand up, Makeda, and then Blair.
Hi. You were saying something about Mount Hope Cemetery. Did the fees go up on Mount Hope? I was kind of
well, not actually go up. So we did a cost analysis for all the services in Mount Hope. Some of them, when we did that revised cost analysis in 2019, some of them were a little below cost, some were a little above cost. So what we did was adjusted all of those fees to be at 100% cost recovery. Now, but there is a low income assistance program at Mount Hope. So there are some fees that are reduced for low income customers. So that stays in place too, but we just need to do cost recovery. Mount Hope services are adjusted to be 100% cost recovery.
Thank you, because that is a low income area for burial. And then also, you said that you made the fees consistent with volleyball. There was consistency in fees.
Yes, there was one area in the whole park system that they were charging a different fee for volleyball leagues using the volleyball courts in the beaches and bays. They were paying significantly less than other organized leagues. And we did not, the committee did not see a reason to give a big discount for being at the beach or the bay. So they will be paying the same fees that other organized adult sports would pay for the use of the courts.
Thank you. That's equity, diversity, inclusion. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I was muted. Prayer, and then Chris.
Hi, I share Makeda's concerns about lower costs in communities that need it. And I'm just wondering if you can provide a little more information about what sort of reductions we can see. Would we be able to, or with this new schedule, be able to provide it for no charge, or would it be a percentage reduction?
Well, we're still working on the nuts and bolts, but the vision is that opportunity fund fee will fund recreation programs in communities of concern. Just much like we did this summer, I think there was 22 areas that we went, or 17, I think. We went out and we had, we provided recreation programs for free or very low or reduced cost to the community. And so our vision is that at, say, Montgomery Waller, children will be able to sign up for a gymnastics class or a karate program at a very low cost in the future. And that's what the Opportunity Fund fee is. That's the purpose that we are built this fee into our fee schedule. Now we will go through a process of analyzing proposed programs and making sure that they're working for the community, that they're what the community needs and wants. But our purpose is to bring a more diverse and enriching program to those communities of concern.
I applaud you for that. Thank you. That's a great sounding feature.
Thank you.
Chris, thanks, Brian.
I was just, I was curious, we're looking at the percentage that's recovered relative to what it actually costs. And I wondered if they had imputed into that what costs should have been incurred. In other words, if there were enhancements or improvements that should have been made or will be made, are we going to be, because I really appreciate keeping the costs down for everybody, but at the same time, if the facilities suffer because, you know, we're sort of looking at it in retrospect, when in fact there needs to be improvements or work or enhancement, that would be a concern to me. And so I just wondered if those needs were taken into account when they're looking at this, because what we're doing now is we're looking at it retrospectively. And as an example, 10.8% increase in the last 5 years or whatever, in terms of the cost of living, consumer price index, et cetera, that's unheard ofly low. So if we're just going to play catch up and we don't have a program for adjustments going forward, that doesn't make sense to me. I think part of this should be that this will be revisited every 2 years or 3 years, because certainly we're about to embark on a cost of living increase that far exceeds what we've experienced recently. And so unless there's some part of this that says, and I know I'm repeating myself, you know, every 3 years this will be adjusted by the consumer price index and adjusted further by needed improvements, then I think, you know, looking at the past is a good thing, but it doesn't get us to where we need to be going forward.
Thanks, Chris. Actually, the city does have a relatively new ordinance that requires us to look at our fees every 3 years. The entire city was, we're late because the entire city was put on hold with the rest of the country for 1.5 years. So we're kind of behind. So we are actually going to initiate another cost of service study in the near future so that we can get on that 3-year cycle. It takes us approximately 8 to 10 months to complete a full cost of service study. And that is based on our actual costs for a particular year for all of our services, our staffing, and maintenance of facilities and grounds. So it's a pretty big study for us to accomplish.
Thanks, Shelley. I see Catherine has her hand raised.
Yes, my daughter's right here, so it might not last long. But I wanted to, Shelley, is there a place that I can see the entire fee schedule? I see in the backup it wasn't posted. I just know from experience that there's usually about 150, 200 fees. So I'd like to actually, given my position with the Parks Foundation now, I have a lot of familiarity with the different programs, and I would love the opportunity to review that prior to going to council. So just wondering if that's public.
Well, the report that was attached to this is 84 pages. And following the staff report to Park and Rec Board, there is the old fee schedule, and following that is the new fee schedule. And the new fee schedule has all of those fees. Were you asking, was that part you were asking about?
Yeah, because I'd like to go through them. Since
it's attachment 2 for the report.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't on our backup, but I can find it on the Park and Rec board. So thank you.
I have it open now, Catherine. I'll send it to you. I thought the entire report was attached to this. I'm sorry if it wasn't.
I may have missed
I'll make sure Johnny gets it so he can send it out to all the members.
Okay, that would be great. And then my last question, I don't want to be repetitive on the traffic control, but is that, so would a nonprofit have to pay for the traffic control to Park and Rec staff on top of the special event fee they pay? Because they have to pay PD fees via the special event permit.
I believe so. I'm really not the expert on those fees. They were proposed by the committee for DRP. But I believe those are additional fees if those agencies decide to do one of those things.
So and then I won't beat a dead horse, but who does the traffic control? Because typically PD does the traffic control. So I guess my question would be, and the reason why I'm focused on this is I'm trying to keep it relevant to Balboa Park, but why would we pay Park and Rec staff on top of PD?
If you don't need, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and respond. Thank you, Catherine, for your question. This is designed to capture the overtime by the rangers that are controlling some of the parking lots.
Okay.
And the idea is that special events traffic control supersedes that when you have an event large enough to justify that. But if you're doing work to close off certain parking lots for an event, oftentimes the park rangers provide that service.
Okay,
this is designed to be in between those two extremes where you have no control or special events traffic control. The park rangers are kind of in the middle. So the idea is that you would step from none to some to a lot. And the fees would then catch each of those scenarios. But if you're paying this fee, you're not getting this service. If you're paying this service, you're not paying this fee.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful because my question was going to be, it seems duplicative to me. And I know that the special event fees can be very cost prohibitive for nonprofits trying to put on events and stuff. So as long as it's not duplicative, I think that makes sense to try to recover that cost. So thank you, Andy, for that clarification.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Andy, and I apologize. I saw Peter in the chat. I forgot to open up to public comment. So Peter, it looks like you have a public comment on this item. Johnny, I don't know if we have anyone else.
Hold on one second. Let me get Peter in, and then Roger is next. Peter. Here you go, Peter.
Thank you very much. And thanks to Catherine. Catherine, your point is spot on. Once you get into that traffic control for PD, those costs are through the roof. So I'm very, very pleased to hear that there is, Andy, thank you, that there is an alternate opportunity because often there is not. So thank you for that. The shuttle, congratulations. We would use that all the time if it's available. And I love the fact that there's a price on it. And then just the only other one that appears a little out of whack for me is golf carts. And I just ask for, before a vote is taken, that the understanding of that is clear, I think, for two reasons. One is there are times when events and operators in the park require golf carts, and there are also organisations in the park that use golf carts on a daily basis. So I would just like that to be clarified before, if possible, before a vote was taken. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Peter. And Johnny, I believe Roger had a public comment.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. Are these fees per person or are they per group or event? Because if you're talking about renting a room, is it or any of these other things, are they the people in the room, or what exactly is the basis for the fee?
It's per event, per hour.
What?
The fee, the opportunity fee for a room rental is per hour, per event.
So you're only charging $1 for a whole building, a whole room?
No, now that's in addition to the normal fees that they would pay. So say we had a Boy Scouts group that wanted to use one of our rooms for their meeting. So they pay, Sarah, help me, I think it's like $4 to $6 for a room rental.
Yeah, I think it's $6 an hour.
Yeah. And then they would pay an additional $1 per hour into the opportunity fund fee if they were a nonprofit youth using a room.
Oh, are you changing these use fees, the $6 as well, or is that staying as is?
No, it increased by 10.8%, the
So
general, all the general fees.
So like 60 cents or something for that.
Yeah, I actually, hold on a second, I can pull that up.
I mean, it costs more to collect it than you're getting. It's a pretty minimal fee, isn't it?
Well, you're already paying a permit for the use of the room. So we're just tacking on that $1. Attached to the report, there is a summary that shows every fee and the amount that they would go up. If adding, whether we changed it. Yeah, here it is. Let's see. Let me get to the buildings and I'll share this with you.
Roger, just to clarify, we have varying tiers of rates as it relates to nonprofit, youth nonprofit, commercial activities that vary in those hourly rates. So for our youth nonprofit, we tend to have much lower rates on the hourly room rentals, whereas a commercial entity coming in to rent a room would pay a much higher rate. Shal, you could probably read that off right off the bat. I think it's about $70 an hour for a commercial on top of the new, oh no, they have the RCF fund, Recreation Center Fund hourly rate.
Okay. A couple of meetings ago, somebody made the point that the events like the Haunted Trail don't pay any fees at all. So is that a different set of fees that you charge for special events that would capture that kind of event?
Andy, you spoke on this last time the question was asked. Can you help me with that?
Haunted Trail fee. I recall this coming up at the last meeting we had, and I remember having to ask for help to get the answer. So Christina Chadwick is here. Christina, I think you may know more than any of the rest of the staff on how that fee is calculated.
Thank you, Andy. You know, I don't feel equipped to answer the question in full this evening, but if people would be willing to allow us to answer that question offline tomorrow, we would be more prepared to do so.
What we'll do, Christina, is we will respond in writing to the entire committee.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. One other question that's sort of a policy question is, I don't understand if you're charging fees for the park purposes, but all the money goes to the general fund. So your budget isn't actually, your cost that you incur is never paid back by these charges. Is that true?
I think you're asking that the opportunity fund fee that we're proposing, does that go to the general fund? No, it does not. It goes to a special fund and is dispersed to communities of concern.
No, but I mean these other, not the opportunity fund, but these fees that you charge for use of different buildings. And,
oh yes, that's all general fund revenue.
So how does the park department ever get recover its costs if they don't get the money in the first place? That seems.
Well, we get funded by the general fund. We have a general fund budget. Our revenue goes into the general fund and it helps offset some of the cost for providing services to the communities, but we never fully recover all costs to provide parks, clean and safe parks for the communities throughout San Diego.
Oh.
So Roger, can I ask what you're trying to ask? Are you asking about cost recovery rates? Are you concerned about general fund taking too much of the revenue? I want to try to understand how we can respond to your question.
Well, I guess what I was saying is that you're charging people to use the park, but the park isn't actually getting the money. So your budgets have to be raised to cover those costs. So at what point do you find out whether the money that you're getting from the city budget actually you get repaid in some way, all these fees back into your budget? It seems like they're getting all your money, but you actually beg for it every year to get it. So I guess I'm asking sort of a loaded question.
Yeah, I get a little bit of background on the budgeting process. So basically every year we're expected to bring in around $4 to $5 million to the general fund in fee collection.
Okay.
The changes you see in front of you are going to increase that amount rather nominally. I think on the order of like 300,000 or 400,000. I forget the exact amount. But with that extra amount, we'll be presenting that to the city's Department of Finance. And then we'll be viewed as having increased the overall revenue of the city by that amount. And ideally, that'll be commensurate with increases to the budget that we'd be asking for in that same year that we're asking to provide the additional revenues to the general fund. So in other words, we're trying to build our budget at the same time that we're increasing our revenues. Hopefully that helps. Thank you.
I get it. I see now. Thank you.
And in your previous question, attachment 3 lists all of the fees, current and proposed fees, and what the changes were. So we'll be seeing that out for you.
Okay, thank you, Shelley, Roger, and Andy. Looks like we have one last question from Brer. Comment?
Hi, this may be totally off topic. Is there any consideration for app-based mobility providers in this fee schedule? Scooters, for example?
Hi, Brer, Andy Field here. The mobility process and getting scooters and such is regulated by the Sustainability and Mobility Department. Even if we did have advertisements that were placed on there, it would not be considered a park fee per se. It would be a permit fee to allow for the business of the mobility scooter provider to operate in the city, not just in the park. So that's a question that we could pose certainly to our sustainability and mobility counterparts and see what they have to say. But I do not have an answer as to whether they are entertaining advertisements on the scooters or authorizing those in a way that brings revenue back to the city. So it's a great revenue generating idea, but it's not one I'm aware of from what I've heard so far.
It occurs to me that it might be a great revenue generating idea. So perhaps someone will look into it. Thanks for responding.
Yeah, we can bring it up to them and let them know that this came up, and appreciate you bringing it up. Thank you.
Sure.
Renee Smith has her hand up too.
Yes, thank you very much, Renee Smith here. A general issue comment, and the first one is, given the long term that it takes to do all of this hard work to put the analysis through, the fact that we're talking about something that is going to be in place for the next 3 years, given that complexity and length of time, having 3 days, I know it's the Brown Act, having 3 days to attempt to locate, understand, and process the information is problematic, at least from my point of view. And I would just ask or suggest as a matter of course that as best as we can, that there be some announcement in anticipation of complex issues coming forward and background material being provided in advance. General topic for consideration. The other thing is to piggyback on Bruce Damon's haunted house idea of a month or so ago. When you're looking at the issue, Christina, regarding that fee schedule, could you also identify cost recovery amounts in actuality for major events such as Earth Day? I hear these apocryphal stories regularly of tens of thousands of people coming through here, coming through the park, and having somewhat longer term implications given the wear and tear that they provide vis-a-vis the actual costs that are recovered by that event. I think it would be useful for all to understand exactly how that process works. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee. And with that, I think that concludes our public and committee member comment. I want to thank Shelley so much for the presentation, and we'll move on to the next information item this evening, which is the quick build roundabout.
Well, hi, everyone. My name is Phil Rust. I'm with the Transportation Department with city staff. And thank you so much for giving us the chance to present this to you. I look forward to getting your feedback both at this meeting and also we plan to bring this forward for you next month as an action item. So, and thank you, Johnny, for hosting the slides. If you want to go to the next one. So supporting the city's climate action plan and a Vision Zero commitment. This project plans to install a roundabout or proposes to install a roundabout this coming April at Florida Drive and Morley Field Drive using recycled composite materials. The Federal Highway Administration and the city will evaluate the project's installation, safety, operation, and maintenance. And the city identified it as a candidate for the pilot project because the roundabout can be installed quickly with no new pavement. The roundabout will move more vehicles through the intersection with less delays while aiming to improve safety for all modes. Long-term, this project will serve as a model for cutting the cost and installation time of roundabout projects that eliminate fatal and severe crashes in San Diego, while equitably reducing climate impacts, supporting active transportation, and improving the economy. So here on the screen, you'll see the intersection kind of blown up there to scale at the red dot. So if you want to go to the next slide. Just a couple of roundabout facts. Roundabouts eliminate fatal crashes. So this will support our Vision Zero commitment that the City Council and Mayor made back in 2015. Roundabouts protect vulnerable modes. So this really lies in support of our active transportation push. Roundabouts are super efficient. So it's supporting the climate action plan. And also roundabouts work when the power goes out. So also in support of climate resiliency there. So the purpose and need for this project, really just to prove that the quick build technology holds up well in San Diego's unique climate, while also aiming to improve safety while reducing congestion in the future. And a little background here, this material itself is developed by a Department of Defense contractor or vendor who develops this polymer specially to wrap and contain bombs that they need to detonate. And so that's why it's kind of so impressive and being considered for use in this application. So typically this thing, the whole roundabout could be installed in 2 days, although we're planning more time, of course, for our first installation. And it's fairly straightforward and simple to install. And just to give you a couple of photos of other installations around the country, this is Jackson, Georgia. And this one in Annandale, Virginia. There's also 3 in Richmond, Virginia, 1 in Maryland, 3 in Alberta, Canada. So 10 total. Here's a straight down kind of view of the whole thing. And so north being up, the south leg is 50 miles an hour coming in. So that's what has the longest splitter island on that approach. Then you can see the east and west legs kind of coming down the hill there, and the north leg being, I think, 25 miles an hour coming in. So in the next slide, zoom in a little bit to give a better view. Top down, what's being proposed. Sorry about it's like the existing striping. You could see just an aerial photo there on top of that. And then the next slide gives sort of an isometric view, a little more perspective. So these, it's about 2.5 inches thick is the relief there. And on the outer edges, you can see the brown there. It's the San Diego buff type color that we like to use. So, and then the next slide is even a more kind of isometric view, is maybe from a vehicle's perspective. We tried to give that visualization there. So for a schedule, we've already upgraded the street lights to make that brighter. And then the resurfacing project is going to be coming in March of next year. And so our proposal is to kind of get on the tail end of that. Once they put down the new asphalt, then instead of putting the old striping back, we would be able to put new striping just on the fresh asphalt and add those improvements. And this kind of goes in conjunction with striping improvements for bicycles that's coming along the stretch as well. So we're working together with our bicycle team to make it a whole continuous improvement in the area. So, and then I wanted to share a couple of slides, a couple of photos from a recent installation in San Francisco. This is in the Presidio Park that they have up there. And this little perspective. And then the last one here shows with vehicles to get some scale. And then my last slide here, just showing more of a before after type proposal or comparison there to see what we're proposing. So that's what I have. Look forward to any feedback that you may have.
So much. I see Chris and Prayer and Howard.
It's not, they don't come natural to me. And I was looking at the striping and I saw that in Presidio Park, for instance, you had pointed out that the one you showed us didn't have any striping. It didn't have the arrows where you go straight and you can go left. There's nothing that suggests that you can go right. So I'm wondering, as I approach the striping that you see, that you've shown us, I see one arrow that goes straight. I see another one that points to the left, which means you're going around the circle. I don't see anything anywhere that suggests that making a right turn is okay, which would seem natural. So I'm wondering, is this like standardized, tried and true striping, or is there anything that you can do from a striping standpoint before you get to the circle, rather than entering the circle and seeing stripes, that might discourage you from making a natural right turn, for instance?
The turning left and going the wrong way?
No, that would always be a bad thing. No, what I mean is, as you're approaching, there's a yield sign.
Yes.
And so can you make a right turn there?
Yeah, so the whole point of this channelization, as you see on the approach, is aiming you to the right of that circle. So you can just let's say as you're going from the bottom of the screen and you go up and you want to turn right to go up the hill, you wouldn't even encounter that arrow. So that arrow applies to if you have decided not to exit there, then you can continue straight or turn left.
I'm just thinking if it catches your eye, that could be confusing.
I see.
It's like, oh, wait, my choice is to go straight or straight and bend to the left. And I can see where somebody might think, turning right is, maybe I'm not supposed to do that here. And you showed us one overhead where there were no arrows at all. And I don't know how that one works out, but I just wondered if there are other ways of striping.
Yeah, there's essentially two standards that I've seen, and no striping is required. So it's fine to have nothing in there. But at these, the two types of striping that it's allowed is this style here, or just a straight arrow that's, well, it's not exactly straight, it's kind of curved around the, so it's sort of split the difference between those two. just to show that you circulate in that direction and not the opposite direction. So those are the two standards that we're allowed to choose from, or we could choose nothing if we want. So.
Thanks, Phil. I'll move to Brer. And then Sarah. Oh, Brer.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for bringing this forward. I appreciate you bringing this to us prior to bringing an action item. You know, it's great to see these things and have an opportunity to weigh in while it's in the planning stages. I assume this is planning stage information that you're sharing with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, part of being able to evaluate this, I think, requires being able to see the other corridor improvements. I know that this is just, you know, one section of what sounds like a larger project you're proposing. And while I appreciate all of the things that roundabouts have to offer, without the sort of corresponding improvements to the corridor itself, it's hard for me to understand the total safety that would be provided to pedestrians and bicyclists. I know you've been out to the intersection, and that intersection and the vicinity is terrible for all users except for people in cars. And the idea of improving this intersection is exciting to me, but I would really like to see the bigger picture. Also, you know, just understanding the kind of the values that are being used to motivate this project. I understand that Pershing Drive, the construction project, is coming up, and this is intended to relieve some of the traffic pressure that's going to be created by that construction project, right?
A happy accident, actually. This has been in the works since 2015, 2016, as far as the opportunities, and we were proposing at a different location at that time. So it's been through a lot of phases.
Almost as long as Pershing Drive. Well, that'll be fortunate. I know that there's going to be a lot of impacts to that construction project, but one of the big things on my mind right now is, you know, how this project you're proposing and what sounds like a larger corridor improvement for Florida Drive are really fitting with the Balboa Park Master Plan. Have you looked at what the master plan stipulates for Florida Canyon? Can you comment on that?
I can't, although I'd be happy to get back to you for sure. I know that we usually look at that on the bicycle corridors, right, when they do those types of improvements. So I would expect that they have, but.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is a really key point. I'd like to have you or someone on your team address that. Also, with anything in the park, I mean, I think these quick build things are going to be hugely instrumental in changing our roadways. I support them. I want more quick build, but I'll be frank, like this product aesthetically doesn't do anything for me. Maybe it's the color choice in your renderings. So for any project that goes into Balboa Park, I think aesthetics and design and how the project complements the landscape and the architecture is going to be of key importance. So I'd like you to think about that and perhaps address those considerations as well. And if you could come back to us with some answers and perhaps a little more, what would I say, design and planning insight, I think that would be really helpful for me to approve this project in the future.
I sure appreciate that. And I'll let you know, the yellow, unfortunately, that's like a federal mandate. This is federal dollars paying for the materials. So they have a very close eye on it. And the rest of it is pretty much, I mean, I aimed for San Diego buff because that's usually the only other concrete color that they'll approve. And since this is kind of a concrete replacement, I was trying to match that. Okay. But certainly open to suggestions. Okay. Definitely want to make it look beautiful.
I do have another question.
Subjective, but yeah. Yes.
Does this manufacturer, are you associated with the manufacturer or just a city staff? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I'm city staff.
Oh, okay. Does this manufacturer offer this product with separated bicycle paths from car traffic?
Oh, we're designing that in. Yes, we are creating that, and that's the part that's the San Diego buff color is separating off for cyclists on the outside.
Oh, I guess I didn't see that in the diagrams that were included. Maybe I just didn't understand it properly. That would be a big help for sure, for sure. So yeah, looking forward to hearing more about work proposed on this quarter for pedestrians and bicyclists. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And then Allison.
Yeah, I just want to say that I get excited about anything that leads to traffic calming measures in the park and increases safety for bikes and pedestrians. And I also echo a lot of what Brer was saying and would appreciate larger context. I think it would be helpful to bring back to the committee. But thank you so much.
You bet.
Allison?
Same thing, Brer hit the nail on the head. My concern is when we have these roundabouts that are new in San Diego, as we're approaching them, I'm not used to them, and I don't have, most roundabouts have something in the middle. I can see them from a distance, I can see them from all angles, and I know I'm approaching something that's going to be a roundabout. Obviously, we're gonna have the sign. So as Brer mentioned, I'm really concerned about the lighting. I'd like to see more of the lighting and the changes and how we're really gonna make sure that it's not as beautiful as we'd like it to be. It certainly doesn't appear to be our Balboa Park that we love. And so if it's going to be this unique, I really am concerned about the safety because it looks very flat. It looks very modern and it's very sophisticated and it's going to help traffic. And I agree with Brer 100%. We're really excited about this opportunity. I think it's great for traffic in the park, but I really want to make sure it fits in with everything. So thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have any committee. Oh, Howard, and then I will go. Go ahead.
You sure? Thank you. Phil, thank you. Great job. I love it. I'm going to be a little different. I love driving through the La Jolla roundabouts and have for 15 years. They don't bother me. Borrego Springs has been longer. I'm okay with roundabouts. I'm also okay with the quick build because we know Florida Canyon will probably change and we can take this out just as quickly as we can put it in.
Yes,
and so thank you for doing that. And number 3, yes, on the bike lanes, let's put this on let's put this quick build stuff on as many bike lanes as humanly possible to keep the cars from crossing over into bike lanes besides with just a little barrier. So I'm excited about it. I love it. Thank you very much. I'm confident I can navigate it.
And I think Howard
Phil,
I think Howard stole what I was gonna say. Finish, Howard. Go ahead.
Well, Phil, you could use the rust color too. That'd be fine with me.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, I just wanted to say thank you, Phil, and thank you to staff for bringing this forward. And I agree around the improvements and being able to see the corridor, but we get so stuck in not doing anything, especially these conversations in the community about roundabouts and their expense and the time it takes. And just being able to get a proof of concept out in a quick build format that's being funded, it sounds like with some federal transportation dollars, is what I'd like to see more of citywide in terms of improvements and showing folks that slowing cars down is going to be safer and more enjoyable for everyone. So I really appreciate this. I agree it's not the most beautiful in the whole world, but you know, it's better than some in North Park that are just concrete and we can't get out of yet. So with that, looks like we have some public comment, and Jackie from Forever Balboa Park.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Chair Chase and council members. My one question was something that Brer hit upon was, when you're coming up and approaching these roundabouts, or rotaries as we call them on the East Coast, one of the beautiful things about these is they have plantings in the medians leading up to the roundabout and plantings in the roundabout. I understand, Phil, you said this is federal funds. Do the federal funds allow for that bomb material not to be in the medians and for plantings to go in the medians? This area of the park is actually in a natural, surrounded by a natural riparian area. So we actually, if planted at the right time of year, could get some really beautiful riparian native plants to grow in those medians and roundabouts.
I would have loved to do that. Unfortunately, this particular location, the size of it, the bomb-proof material essentially is drivable for large vehicles, and that's what it's for. Anytime a large vehicle comes to it, their rear tires are usually going to drive up right on top of it. And so unfortunately, it's the larger sized intersections can have those. And we really tried. My engineers have kind of simulated this several different ways to try to see what size of a circle we could put in the middle and allow for something like that. And there wasn't any room at all. So sorry about that, but we really did try.
Hey, Molly, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, yes, I was on mute. It looks like Brer has his hand up, and then Roger Shelley.
Hey, I just wanted to add one other thing. You know, I'm pretty familiar with roundabouts and their ability to move traffic faster through an intersection and increase volume on a corridor. And I just like to hear if there are, and you know, I don't know if you've answered or even looked at this, but the opportunity for other traffic calming measures along Florida, there's something that I'd like to see, and that was it. It was a secondary thought. Sorry to cut in front of Roger again.
Yeah, I hope that the bike, I would say the bike improvements will, I mean, usually that's their MO anyway, is to try to provide as much calming as they can in the whole corridor. Yeah. But I hear you, you know, let's bring back the whole context next time.
Thanks, Phil, and then Roger, and it looks like Renee, look, I can't see that your hand's up, but I saw your comment. So.
I hate to pile on about the beauty, but this isn't Balboa Park, our crown jewel, and to be putting roundabouts in with nothing like a statue or a piece of art or a tree or something in the middle of a major roundabout seems like a lost opportunity. And Phil, you're saying you're going to be doing this as a pilot for all over the city. Well, then we're going to have a bunch of faceless, ugly roundabouts with these black top rings on them. And I wonder whether it's worth a 2-day input for a forever bit of ugliness in all over San Diego. It's nice that the feds are paying for it, but it seems like there must be some way to alter that so that you can have some attractiveness to it. It seems like a short-term solution and a long-term blight on a park, but less all over neighborhoods if you're going to do this everywhere. So I don't know how you do that, but I think we should try harder than just pick some federal funds and build a little roundabout, and then we'll have to live with this ugliness in the middle of these streets here and everywhere. So good luck trying to change things, but I think there really need to be
yeah,
more
and this is a modular system. It's by no means the final deal. You know, we can always add to it later too. So.
Thanks, Roger. And then Renee, did you have a comment before?
Yes, I do quickly. Phil, thank you very much. A question, a little hard to tell from the drawing. Is the overall footprint the same or larger than the current footprint in the intersection?
Exactly the same. We didn't increase the pavement at all.
Okay, thank you. The intersection, as you likely know, is problematic, particularly during the rainy season. Volunteers have installed some check dams, which work marginally well, especially on the southeast portion of that. Is any part of this going to deal with the significant and inevitable runoff that happens in that intersection whenever there's a heavy rainfall?
Absolutely. So you may have noticed the channel running down the center. So that's essentially at the low point of the of the whole intersection. And so what we tried to do was keep this modular material out of the way of the natural flow of things. And so that's what that's designed for. And as well, I mean, it is modular. So if we, we're going to be out there observing it during the first big rain, and if there's any adjustments that need to be made, we'll be able to make those as well.
Well, the last big rainfall, the debris from gravel, significant amounts of boulders and dirt washed to the center of the intersection. So I'm just wondering if there's some plan to install some retaining walls or diversion along that line. Just an observation. You'll be coming back. Thank you. I noticed in San Francisco get sidewalks in their example is in the Presidio, I believe. Any intention to provide any sidewalk, or is this just strictly roundabout? Because this is a problematic area for the children who use Roosevelt School and then walk up to North Park. So it seems like it might be, I understand it's quick. I take your point, I take Howard's point. But is there any opportunity to look to this larger context with sidewalks?
Yeah, I agree. We're not precluding that. And the nice thing is we would be putting kind of these facilities in place in the right place so that those could be added without adjusting anything here. And another point for innovation, maybe there's a way that this modular material could also serve that purpose as well.
Bingo.
So I appreciate that feedback.
Bingo. And lighting was mentioned, and my apologies for missing it. Is lighting being added specifically in this project?
I mean, this is a multi kind of phase thing. So we've already increased the brightness of the light that's out there currently. So that'll be sufficient for when it's installed. And then we've also requested funding to add an additional street light in the future.
So I guess with all of this, and as you look at this larger project, and not the South World Hunger necessarily, but if you could consider when you come back, issues like the lighting, additional lighting, sidewalking in the area, expand this out a little bit so we can start thinking in terms of phased projects. That would really be helpful, I think. And thank you.
Thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It looks like Chris for.
I just had a very quick follow-up question, and I probably missed it, and I apologize. Why are we restricted to the existing footprint?
The quick build, category, I guess, is really what we're looking at here to make this installation go quickly and prove that it can be done quick and last a long time.
Okay.
Does that address your question, Hope?
Yeah, it looks like Brer has one last question.
I'm really excited about this project. Can you tell? I love it. I love roundabouts, by the way. It occurs to me that if this is a test case of a new special project, that it could be advertised as such, some sort of information posting around the roundabout so people who walk by there can see it and understand what you're doing. That was my last thought.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Phil, for spending your Thursday evening with us and answering all our questions and for all your work on this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go roundabouts. With that, I will turn it over to our partner updates for those that are still here. It looks like we have Jackie from Forever Balboa Park.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, Chair Chase and committee members. On behalf of Forever Balboa Park, thank you for the opportunity to give you an update on our current initiatives that we're working on. As Christina talked about earlier in the meeting, the Botanical Building Restoration Project Phase 1 is moving forward, and we're super excited about that. Thank you to Parks and Recreation and to the engineering group and all the city employees that are making that happen. We continue to work at Forever Balboa Park on phase 2. So now that we know exactly what's going to be in phase 1, we're finalizing the scope for phase 2 for the restoration of the Botanical Building and Gardens. I also did want to let you know that although the park-wide signage and wayfinding initiative did take a pause during the pandemic due to a lot of different issues, fabrication being one of them, we were able to leverage that pause opportunity to be able to be more inclusive with our park-wide signage and wayfinding initiative to include bilingual options. So look forward to that, starting implementation of phase 1 in summer of 2022. We also wanted to give a shout out to all of our volunteer programs that continue to happen in the park. So park ambassadors, visitor center volunteers, garden stewards, tree stewards. They donated over 2,000 hours worth of work just in September alone, which actually equates to over $65,000 of service hours for Balboa Park. So thank you to everyone that gives time and energy to the park. Also wanted to let you know we have a lot of tree planting coming up in the fall. As you know, here in our climate, we do our best tree planting work in the cooler weather when we have our natural rains. We just had our first tree planting of the season this past Friday, and we have another one tomorrow morning. And so we continue to update all of our new trees that are being implemented into the park in the tree plotter inventory that was done by our organization in collaboration with Parks and Recreation back in 2017. And so for those of you that want more information about that, please feel free to reach out to me. We'll send you the full inventory that includes now the full inventory includes over 17,000 trees in Balboa Park. And our tree stewards and our tree steward maintenance parties monitor and maintain over 800 trees in Balboa Park. We have a success rate of about 86% on our 800 trees that we monitor and maintain. Also wanted to let you know that we are pleased to be working with Parks and Recreation to bring back the beloved Poinsettia display this December, as Christina mentioned earlier. So the last couple of weeks of December, please come and check out the Poinsettia display. It is the 35th annual Poinsettias display. Also on this Saturday, I wanted to let you know that we are working in collaboration with SDG&E for our 3rd annual Plant It Forward event. And so if you have some time Saturday afternoon, come visit us on the Botanical building lawn and pick up some free samplings of native and climate appropriate saplings to plant in your yards. With that, I'll take any questions.
Do we have any questions? But thank you, Jackie. Thanks for all the information. And
thanks, guys. Take care.
Up next, we have Peter Kaminsky.
Good evening, Chair Chase, members of the committee. My name is Peter Kaminsky from the Cultural Partnership, representing 26 member organizations, cultural orgs who are dedicated to access for all, compelling programs, and providing a key destination attraction for San Diego. Just a couple of quick points tonight. First, my thanks to and congratulations to House of Korea for Korea Day on October 23rd. That was a very successful whole of park and excellent program. While the runs and the walks through the park are fine, these type of events happen to the park. Bring on more Korea Days where cultural events happen with the park and offer partnership opportunities beyond compare. High quality and popular. Let's do more of those. While we're in the mood for chatting about Balboa Park experiences, as many of you know, the Cultural Partnership has an RFP out in the experience design world for the development of an experience plan for the Balboa Park Cultural District. I'm thrilled to let you know that just in a few days now, November 12, those RFPs will be due. And hopefully by the next Balboa Park Committee meeting, the finalists and perhaps the group who have been selected to do the work will be announced. We're not doing this in isolation. With over 100 stakeholders engaged, including a highly representative advisory board of representatives throughout the county. As some of you may know, each year the Cultural Partnership is a strong advocate for funding for arts and culture, a fund which has unfortunately been decimated over the last couple of years. We will be fighting hard to ensure that funding returns to at least pre-pandemic levels. This fund is extremely important for organisations within Balboa Park and throughout the city. However, from a budgetary perspective, it's not currently being considered as important a priority. And I know many, many people in our community know that it is. We'll work hard to achieve this funding. We recognise and thank Councilmember Whitburn for his support and other council members' support, and we look forward to your support as well. Then finally, while unbelievable, with the year end on the horizon, the Cultural Partnership is starting to plan our Trustees Connected event. At this event, each year, trustees, board members, other Balboa Park leaders in our community are invited to join as one and celebrate the park. Yet to be scheduled, but likely to be held in the Menge Museum and in early March. We look forward to seeing you all in person. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. And I don't believe Nick Henningsen is here. Anyone here from the Balboa Park Collaborative? If not, we'll move on to Roger Sholey.
I wanted to show a couple pictures. If I can share my screen, is that okay?
Roger, do you want me to share, or are you going to share?
Let me share, because last time I didn't do it right. So see if I can try it this time. If that's okay.
This is going to be great. Come on, Raj.
Where is I'm looking for your signal to share it. I don't see that. Oh.
Looks like we see it, Roger.
Did it.
Roger, I think you must be muted, or I can't hear you.
Oh, all right, there we are. Okay, sorry about that. Can you see this now?
Yes.
All right, good. Let me back up. Christina mentioned the completion of the painting of the federal building, and I would just remind you what it looked like about 6 weeks ago and what it looks like after only $17,000 of paint and materials. And so what do you think of that? It's unbelievable. This is the bagel color and the honeymoon trim on this building. So if you look at the picture on the right, the detail of the ornamentation, which is all fiberglass, is just remarkable. So I hope you all can go by there and see that for yourselves. The next thing I want to tell you about is the completion of our poster contest with the AIGA San Diego Graphic Arts Group. We asked artists in the region to present posters to celebrate the completion of the Auto Museum building. And we got 17 posters. The one on the left is the winner by someone named Mustico, who just moved to San Diego in 2016, just got his graphic arts degree in May, got married in June and submitted this in July. And the jury thought this is the best poster of all. And here they are all together. So it's an example of bringing a new group of people into Balboa Park. And if this is a successful thing, we'll try and do it again in the years ahead. A final thing I wanted to mention is that as we reported before, we were involved with San Diego High School lease matter, and out of this has come this idea what we're calling the Idea Plus District. In other words, linking Balboa Park to San Diego High School, the City College, Central Libraries, High School, and the surrounding neighborhoods. So this idea is just germinating at the beginning, but I thought you'd be interested to see that the park is to be a major element in this San Diego High School rebuilding program. And if we're successful, there'll be a partnership between the high school and City College with Balboa Park to the north and the neighborhoods to the south and the east. So this is something to look forward to. And we're calling it Idea District because that was a concept for East Village a few years ago, innovation, design, arts, education, and now we add business because you can imagine the students could have internships in downtown area and be able to get to their jobs and internships walking. So new idea, hope it works out. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Roger. And then Steve Stopper from Save Starlight.
Hi, Chair, and hello, members of the committee. You know, aside from our repairs, the institution of Starlight continues to grow. We've already had, from our last board meeting, which I wasn't able to attend your meeting, we've had 2 new significant supporters and board members join. And this last board meeting last night, we had more come on. A couple that are kind of interest are very much so involved with the kind of new programming and community involved things we intend. Julie Rowland and Jesse Jackson recently featured in the Union Tribune, and they did open community performance platforms, and they're involving, and also Molly Nocon, and Molly Nocon is going to join our board. She is the founder and CEO of the Noah Homes organization. If you've ever heard of that, that's one of the state's best living disabled facilities. And we've already done things with her where we've not just, we're worried about ADA accessibility, but we actually let the disabled people perform. And so that's a partnership that we're looking at going forward. And then as a shameful plug, Carlton Overstreet has the San Diego Hip Hop 5K going on this weekend. Everybody come down there and run.
Thanks, Steve.
That's it.
Perfect. Well, with that, thank you to all the partners for their updates, to all the committee members. We have nothing else on the agenda, so we will adjourn to, I believe it's December 2nd. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Everybody take care.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Be safe.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.